Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you a detailed look at my LEGO Lapras MOC. Like with all my other builds I've shared on this channel, I'll have a link in the description below for both the parts file and instructions. The proceeds just help to support me and this channel, and I do not sell the physical models, so what you're paying for is only for the parts file and instructions. The total part count of this MOC is 619 pieces, and at the time of recording this video, just the parts themselves are estimated to cost around $95 to $110 Canadian. This does not include shipping and handling, and your final cost may vary. Lapras was a Pokemon that I wanted to build for quite some time, and it was also requested by many of you, so I'm happy to finally share the final build with you guys. Lapras has been on my bucket list of Pokemon MOCs to design, since I think it has such an iconic look, and it was prominently featured in the anime, where in my opinion it stole the show during the Orange Islands arc. Also, if you played in the DS games, you may remember facing Red, who had a Lapras on his team, and this is also one of the last Pokemon I needed to build in order to have a complete Pokemon Red team in LEGO. I know in Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal he has an Espeon instead, but stay tuned as I plan on sharing all the evolutions in a future video. In terms of the design, some parts came along much smoother than others, and I decided to use the medium azure color here since it seemed to be the closest match in most of the references I used. Due to this, the build does use some uncommon pieces, which is why the estimated price is relatively higher. I did consider making the shiny form as well, and I think it would have just been a color swap from the medium azure to medium lavender in LEGO, as it's probably the closest match, but unfortunately, I don't think it's possible yet, at least with the existing parts in LEGO, since the medium lavender doesn't have that wide of a part selection. But hopefully more parts or recolors will be released in the future. So first taking a look at the head. The head was a bit challenging to design and to get its shaping with the limited parts available, but I think I was still able to capture the overall look. I do think there are some areas where it needs some improvements, like around the eyes, which I think are covered a bit too much, and at the cheeks, which also stick out a bit too far as well. If I come back to this MOC in the future, those will probably be the first things I tweak, or I might even redesign the entire head if needed. The head was one of the last parts I finished, which is not my usual process in designing, but it's because when I connected the head to the body, I had almost forgotten that it had a horn at the top, so I had to tweak the initial design a bit to add it in, and it also sits at a slight angle as well. I would have liked to use a cone piece instead, but sadly it doesn't come in this color, so I tried the best I could with this cheese wedge slope with some 1x1 plates stacked on top of each other. In the early designs, I did play with adding a ball joint at the base of the head, but the extra gap looked a bit too awkward, so I decided to have the entire head be fixed instead. This means there's no articulation with the head or neck, which unfortunately limits the overall posability of this MOC. Coming down from the head, the neck and front of the body were another tricky part of the design, since I wanted to make sure that its wide base, where it's around 6 to 8 studs wide, will transition smoothly to the top, which becomes 2 studs wide. You can see that the tapering on the sides with the use of different curved slope pieces, and this is done in both tan and medium azure to follow the color blocking in the official design. At the base, I tried to have the front be a bit more rotund, so I used some wedges and these quarter round pieces to finish off the shaping at the front, and this actually uses a similar technique from my Dragonite MOC as well. Now for probably the most interesting part of the build, we'll take a closer look at the shell. The interior of the shell uses a bunch of different snap bricks and brackets, but it's surprisingly quite hollow, which helps cut down on the part count a bit. You'll notice looking around the shell that it consists of many different hinges and bricks, and that's what helped me to capture the overall shaping while simulating its sort of rough and porous texture as well. The placements of the hinges were also strategic, and these are the points I knew I would add these shell spikes, since many are angled out, and the spikes are simply done with a wider cone piece and a 1x1 round towel on top. After looking at the source material, I found this technique was a pretty close representation, since the spikes are quite short and stubby, and aren't too long or sharp as well. The rest of the shell is built with some wedges, wedge plates, and slopes to cover some of the gaps around the hinges, and I think they help fill in some of the space while giving the shell some more mass and shape to it. The final detail is this lip that covers around the entire perimeter of the shell, which I tried to keep at 1 stud in thickness. There are some spots where I think the lip sticks out a bit too far than I would like, but let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on this. Looking at its underside, its belly, legs, and tail have all been smoothed off with curved slopes, wedges, and towels, even though this side isn't usually seen. The legs are a bit tricky to build due to the limited parts, but each are connected with mixed style ball joints, so you can rotate them around with a pretty decent range of motion. The tail was probably the simplest part of this entire build, and it's just done with some wedges sandwiched together with the snout plates in the middle, and they're connected with the clip and bar plates, so you can only rotate this up and down, This actually uses the same technique that I used for the tail on my Blastoise MOC. Also, the entire build is pretty solid, and you just pick up the MOC and place it down without a lot of work to get it balanced. Finally, for a sense of scale, this is how it looks compared to a minifigure. And as an added bonus, this is how it looks compared to my Pokemon Trainer Red MOC. And it wouldn't be complete if I didn't show you guys how it looked while I was riding it. Just don't pay attention to where that center spike is. So that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on this MOC, as well as any suggestions for my next build, and I may just pick yours for a future video. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.